What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of All Things Super. I am one of your
I don't
hosts,
see what's the
Spider.
problem.
I'm joined by Mr. VIP, Frankie Washington. How are you doing today, sir?
I am awesome, sir. Thank you for asking. I don't see what the problem is. How
No problem at
y'all
all.
doing?
No problem at all. Not a single problem to be had here. You got your cup, I got my cup.
This is how to start a day right here. This is how I get it. This is how you get it going. Get your cup and mind your business.
Oh, absolutely. But if you don't know, this is All Things Super, where every week we review, recap, and sometimes react to movies, TV shows, trailers, all dealing with the superhero genre. This week we are going to be reviewing episode 5 of Moon Knight, Asylum. I think that was the name of it, Asylum or The Asylum, one of the two.
It was Asylum or The Asylum, one of the two.
Thank you for repeating what I just said.
Right.
Well, yeah, we're going to be talking about episode 5 of Moon Knight. So, of course, if you haven't seen it, go give it a watch, then come back and take a listen to the podcast. But if you have seen it, join us as we discuss what we thought about it. So, Mr. VIP, Frankie Washington, what did you think about episode 5? Starting off with you this week.
I loved all of it, as I often do. Yeah. That doesn't answer the question, though. I loved all of it. Seriously, and all jokes aside, listen, this show has taken us on a marvelous journey through the situation of DID and how it affects this character, Mark, and the traumas that he's gone through to start to develop DID and how he's processing this through various actions. It is a great depiction of all of these things put together to weaving into a story. Great action. I'm on the record for saying that once they finally got to it. Great visuals, great effects, great CGI, great acting. Yeah.
You sound like you're holding something back.
Well, because I've been pretty consistent about saying all the way up to this point that Moon Knight's not really super for me, and I was expecting well, to be honest, I really wasn't expecting it. In fact, you go back and see that I said that in these last 2 episodes, it may not be enough room to squeeze in that super rating.
Right.
I'm still standing by that. I'm thinking that there's not anything that's going to be in the big reveal that's going to change for me personally before y'all come for me. But to make Moon Knight super for me, and this at the beginning of this, all the way up to now, I've been struggling trying to say I don't know what it is about this show that's not giving me the MCU feel or the Marvel feel or and it's different. And don't get me wrong, we want different. I love different.
Yeah.
I want more original stories. I want more of these underdeveloped characters. So there's nothing wrong with going in this direction. Is it a lot to take in? Yes, it's a lot to take in. I think they're doing a great job explaining it. I think there's a great depiction of it. It's just show that we needed that we didn't know that we needed, and one that we probably didn't ask for, because I'm pretty sure everybody was screaming out they want another Avengers movie or, a Captain America movie or a Hulk movie or something.
Right.
We definitely want a Thor movie, which we're going to get very soon. Happy about that. But I don't know about Moon Knight. It's just maybe I don't know. I know where it's going. I know where we're going. Listen, we don't talk about Mephisto. No. We don't talk about Mephisto. But there has to be an entity in the MCU that all of these Midnight Suns are going to come from. Mephisto has a big story arc in the comics that's going to end up having to be in the MCU at some point in time. Ghost Rider gets his power of vengeance from making a deal with, yeah. So, are you frozen? Because if you are,
no, I'm just listening very intently.
I can see you blinking now. It's too late. Cup is in hand. All right, sorry. We got to get to the devil. Whatever version or whoever's going to act as the devil. And maybe it's because MCU is in limbo right now. We have no Avengers. We don't know really who the villain's going to be. They haven't really announced it. I mean, we know He Who Remains has died, which means he's not remaining anymore.
At least that variant of him.
He who used to remain,
right,
is gone because Loki killed him. Loki. Well, the female version of Loki, Sylvie. So now the multiverse, the guards, the gates at the guards, or the guards at the gate are gone. That's why we have all this multiversal nonsense that's able to happen in the sacred timeline. Overall, and I promise this is about Moon Knight. I'm getting to it. I'm not going off topic. Overall, we got all these things going on. So we're intrigued into this. Insert Moon Knight.
Right.
And though he's a great addition, I feel like, and again, this is just for me, I feel like I got a lot of other stuff that I'm invested in that you haven't really answered, but you shift my focus to bring attention to this character, though his story is horrible. In this episode, we saw what causes Mark's DID. His brother died. It's tragic. They were just playing and they got caught in a cave in a tomb. Water was rising from rain. Could have been something that happened from somewhere along the line. Marvel was good about making those tie-ins. So his brother's death could have been triggered by something else that happened later on, miles away, that caused water to come over there to where Mark was. Possibly. Yeah. I'm just saying that's a possibility they can go with. But traumatic. His brother died. His family is in mourning. His mother is in mourning. She takes it the hardest, as she should. It's her baby, not just her child, her last child. So that attachment was even more tethered because it's a baby. To her, it was the baby, and you were the bigger brother. You were supposed to be the protector.
Right.
Understood. She's traumatized, cannot get over it. Goes to verbally abusing Mark, emotionally abusing Mark, physically abusing Mark. So much so that the young man had to create a totally different persona to deal with his mother as a child. These are some big things going on for this young man as a kid.
Right.
Storyline is incredible. So it makes sense what's going on. And then we don't really get the backstory yet, how Jake got there, but Jake is there. And we've seen Jake in the story now. We've been hitting at Jake, and now we can see him. You can clearly tell it's him. He's the more the New Yorker, talk more with the accent, got the little Band-Aid over his nose. And you can tell that when he's drinking, he's Jake. Clearly, when he was in Cairo, that person that was sitting on the side of the bed, that was Jake. The person outside of the funeral when Mark's mom died by the car, you can look. This is how genius it was. He was stumbling because he was drunk, or was that just how Jake walks? So I'm going to say that was Jake. And inside the therapy session, when he has the pyramid in his hand that he can literally stab somebody with, that's Jake. And you know it's Jake. He's a very violent guy. He's probably kind of cleverly violent because that's just the type of guy he is. Again, I get all of it. I get the references. I get the Easter eggs. I get all of that. But I think for me, and it could be me figuring it out, because I like to figure stuff out with you guys all the time. This is my favorite part of the goddamn day, to talk to you guys about this stuff, man. So I think for me, that's what I'm going through. Maybe this is my own diagnosis. I'm going through, I want to know what's going on with the Avengers. I wanted to, okay, we're bringing in the young Avengers. The old stories is, this is how Falcon is picking up the shield, and he has the weight of the world on his shoulder because he's now the new Captain America. But he's black, and America got some issues that we're working on, but we got issues, and we got to work on it. And he's not looked at to be in the same light as Steve Rogers. Not to say that Steve Rogers he was an amazing character. He's an amazing man. Like he is the pinnacle of, the ideal American. And Anthony, we'll call it Anthony Mackie, but Falcon doesn't fit these ideals. Falcon has his own struggles. He got his own personal stuff that he's dealing with. And then you have to go and it's kind of like what we were saying with Spider-Man, which I noticed that Marvel kind of backpedaled and took out. Are you going to be the new Iron Man? That was asked in the trailer. They cut that part out, but even him looking at the mural on the side of the wall, it's like, you can't fit Iron Man's shoes. God damn it. Hulk can't fit Iron Man's shoes. He's Iron Man. He's cemented in as the best that could possibly do it from multiple levels. Flawed as he is, flawed as he was, he is still the linchpin of the MCU. I don't know why they don't want to give it to Blade. Blade been put the groundwork in, but that's another conversation altogether.
Right.
But actually, it was Howard, and I did like the Howard the Duck movie. I have gone on record saying that, even though once you go duck, I don't know. So there's other things that I'm more excited about, or I really want. I want conclusions to what's going on, to the storyline that you just gave me. So, yes, Moon Knight is great. Sure, he's great. Is he super? He's a good guy. He got some stuff going on. He got a lot of stuff going on, and maybe we know. Here's the thing. Follow me on this journey real fast before I kick it over to you, Spider.
Okay.
If you have a title, right?
All right.
And in the sense, because we're in universe, what is it? 6999, whatever our universe is.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. I don't know why they got all nines on it. That's crazy. We know Moon Knight is not in danger, because we know he's going to end up joining the Midnight Suns and eventually maybe somewhat off the Avengers or the Dark Avengers or something like that. We know he's coming. This is an origin story. We know he's at the end of this, he'll be okay. He's going to be fine. Mm-hmm. He'll figure it out, right? Is that more of a detriment to your story, to tell your story knowing that it's an origin story? And I question that because we've seen Spider-Man, and I'm just saying that because it's the most recent superhero movie that just came out. We've seen Spider-Man, and there's no time that we go into Spider-Man thinking, man, Spider-Man may not make it out of this. Like, we're going to see how he saves the day,
right? In
a sense. So, is that playing against Moon Knight? Because we know, I mean, it's practically the same thing, right? There's no guarantees that Spider-Man's going to make it out.
Right.
But we know Moon Knight's going to make it out. But we should know Moon Knight's going to make it out. It's his show. You feel what I'm saying? Am I making sense?
So you're asking, is it...
Your level of expectation are not expectation. It's suspicion of belief, suspicion. Um, you know what, Spider? I'm gonna
The
pass it to
suspension of
you.
disbelief. So basically, what you're asking is that if we know, okay, because this is an origin story for Moon Knight, so if we know that this is Moon Knight's show, this is an origin story, we know he's going to be coming back. Does that diminish the stakes since we already know that he's going to make it out? Is that what you're asking?
See, this is why you do the intros. I can't formulate my words like that.
But I think to your point, like you said, we go to a Spider-Man movie and we watch it. We don't watch to see if Spider-Man's going to make it out alive. We watch to see how Spider-Man's going to save the day. So I think the fact that we can come out of a Spider-Man movie, a Batman movie, or a Superman movie, or what have you, we can come out of the movie, we can go into the movie knowing this is not going to be the death of this character. Save for Infinity War Endgame, where we didn't really know what was going to happen, but we knew that this was going to be ultimately the end of an era for these particular set of superheroes. But save for that,
did we not know? Did we not know really? Because contracts were ending, so we pretty much knew.
But the thing about it is, like, for one, I knew that because so we know that contracts are ending. We know that characters are not going to be returning, but we didn't know exactly how those characters' stories were going to end in those particular movies. So it's like,
I don't know. Death is death.
no, I understand what you're saying in that regard, but like we didn't know before going into Endgame. All right, so RDJ's his contract was up. Scarlett Johansson's contract was up. Chris Evans' contract is up. We know that they didn't renew. They're not signing off on additional movies. So everybody, at least for me, I went into Endgame thinking that Cap was going to die. That was my thought. I didn't know that Cap was going to end up going back in time and, replacing all the Infinity Stones, going live his life. I didn't know that Tony was going to die in the fashion that he did. I didn't know that Nat was going to die in the fashion that she did. So it's not that I didn't think that these characters were going to meet their end in some way. I just didn't know exactly how they were going to meet their end, which is why we watched the movie, because we want to see how the story folds out. So for Moon Knight, even though we go into the show, even before episode 1 even came on, we went into Moon Knight knowing that Moon Knight's not going to die. We didn't know that at some point during the series, he was going to lose his abilities, he was going to lose his power. But we know, even though when we saw that, we're like, okay, well, at some point he's going to get it back. We know that. But we watch to see how he gets it back.
True.
And now we're getting all of this additional information, this additional, this sub story, this additional like B plot, C plot, all these other characters being introduced. We get all of this other information and all these other twists and turns, not knowing what's going on. We get all of this additional information in the route of him going back to getting his powers. So for those who aren't necessarily initiated to the comic book storyline of Moon Knight, they're not really familiar with Mark, they're not familiar with Steven, they're not familiar with Jake. And then on top of that, we're looking at it from the MCU perspective, because we all know, for those who have read comic books, who are familiar with some of these storylines where these series and these movies are being pulled from, we know that MCU likes to put their own little spin on it. It's not a one-for-one thing from the comic book. So we watch it.
Thank God for that.
So we watch it in anticipation to see what MCU is going to do differently. Now, that could be a good thing, that could be a bad thing. Sometimes people are like, oh, okay, I know the comic book went in this direction with it, but MCU went in that direction. And, it's not the same, but it's still good. And some people are like, oh, well, they should have stuck with the comic book origin story and just went in this direction.
How dare they change their own stuff?
And so you have people of that opinion that they're not going to be happy with any other interpretation of the story outside of that original comic book storyline that they know and love. Because the thing about it is, you have these diehard comic book fans, you read the same issue over and over and over again, that story's not changing. Okay, and so when somebody says, I have however many issues of the Moon Knight comic. I've read them all front to back to front, over and over again. I am intently knowledgeable of Moon Knight, and so you have the series that comes out, and the first thing they say, Arthur Harrow was a nobody in the comic book. Why is he the main villain of this story? You know, and all this other kind of
So
stuff.
is Jasper Spitwell.
Yeah, and so
You know who he is now, though, don't you?
but so those type of people, and not to lump everybody into overgeneralize or anything like that, but you have some of those type of people, those comic book purists, who are going to be upset because it's not the story that they grew up with. It's not the story that they know and love. And so you're always going to have those two sides. So regardless of what the MCU did in this series, you'll have people who just they aren't happy with it. They don't like it. But I do
Oh my
think.
God, you sound like you're talking about me, but you're not.
But I'm not. I'm not.
I enjoy it.
But
All of it. I think it's greatly depicted.
mm-hmm.
If I don't think it could have been done any better. I just don't understand why I'm getting this story right now when I want to know what the hell's going on with the Avengers.
Right. And I mean, like you said, and that's I can guarantee you that you're not the only one that feels like that. And I think that's the problem that you run into when you have a larger universe. Because you think of the original Spider-Man trilogy where you only are focused on Spider-Man, right? What is Spider-Man doing? And so the time between the first Spider-Man movie and the next Spider-Man movie, there was nothing in between except us waiting for the next Spider-Man movie. So all we're doing is hoping that when the next Spider-Man movie comes out, we get at least an explanation as to what Spider-Man's been up to all this time. But now you have this entire universe where you have your Captain America, Sam Wilson, you have your Bucky Barnes, former Winter Soldier, you have two Hawkeyes now. Clint's going back home, and now you have Kate Bishop. Elena's running around. John Walker's running around. You know, Black Panther's in Wakanda. We don't know what's going to happen with Black Panther. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. So we don't know what's going on with that story. We are eager because we are been introduced to all these characters, and now it's like, okay, well, what's Shuri up to? What's Nakia up to? What's Okoye up to? Last time we saw Okoye, she was basically in the Avengers. When in Endgame, Okoye was right up with War Machine, Rocket.
She should be.
As she should be. But she was right up there with them. So it's like now they re-snapped, everybody's back now. So technically the king of Wakanda is back. So does Okoye go back into her head of the Dora Milaje role? Like that, I mean, it's kind of like a step down, right? Because she's basically an Avenger. She was, because like we don't know what was going on in Wakanda after T'Challa got snapped away, right?
This is very true what you're saying. T'Challa was snapped away. Do you think that's going to play any part of the recasting of Chadwick Boseman?
I think if they wanted to make a cohesive storyline, I think that might be the best way for them to resolve that issue. Now, I'm sure if Chadwick didn't pass, then they would have some kind of way of explaining it. There might have been some type of power struggle of him coming back and maybe fighting, not necessarily fighting for the throne, but trying to reclaim his throne as the rightful king of Wakanda. But whoever was the successor behind him, maybe they were doing a better job, right? And so maybe the original
successor.
But Shuri got snapped away too.
This is true.
But
confirmed by Angela Bassett, she said that she and Shuri were snapped away.
Yeah. And so whoever was the successor to the throne, maybe they were doing a better job. And maybe the original intent for Wakanda Forever was that T'Challa saw that he could do more as Black Panther than just the King of Wakanda. So he still held the right to be king, but he left like the governing duties or the monarchy of it, the position of king. He left that to whoever was filling in while he was gone, and he's still going back to be Black Panther. So I don't know if that would have been the original
that's what the
premise
comic
of it.
books have. The
Yeah.
comic book says exactly that. That's how he become king of the dead because he doesn't want to dethrone his sister. Because of course, you know, you can't just be like, hey, you got it. I'm just. Then
Right.
there's a ritual involved, and I think there's death and all that. So he's like, I'm not going to overthrow my sister.
Right.
So he goes actually with Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four on this journey in the underworld to end up getting the Panther power of the dead or something along that line. I'm butchering it, and they're gonna come for me, and I'm sorry, but I'm going off memory, and I done had too much of this.
And listen, we've stated many a times we are not comic book experts. We don't know the back and forth and the ins and outs of every single comic book storyline. We have a vague knowledge of all this stuff. So if we do get it
Yeah,
wrong, just don't come for us, but feel free to correct us in the comments. We'll take corrections, we'll take constructive criticism, but don't come for our
of
heads.
course, of course.
If you come out that's like, well, actually, and
If
issue
your
number
fingers turn green when you're typing, you're mad.
right.
How dare you?
But
Sorry.
speaking of Black Panther being King of the Dead, there was when you talked about the Easter eggs in Moon Knight. There was a nice little nod to Black Panther in this episode of Moon Knight because Taweret mentioned that there are different afterlives. You know, there's not just the Egyptian afterlife. They're not just the Christian afterlife or whatever you want to call it. But she referenced the ancestral plane, and I want to say that this might, other than the billboard on the side of the bus for the GRC, I think this might have been the only other reference or acknowledgement of a previous MCU property. I don't think they've really been alluding to any other things being like connected in Moon Knight. So it was nice to kind of hear that and be like, oh shit, they're talking about Black Panther. Like, because if you've seen Black Panther, you're very familiar with the ancestral plane where T'Challa, when he ate the or drank from the heart-shaped herb, he communed with his ancestors, the kings of the past, so they can guide him onto his journey of being a good king. But so I thought that was pretty cool that they referenced that. But this episode for me, and like I was saying, I have been saying on the past weeks that it's been kind of ramping up as to the interest of whether or not I'm sticking with the show. And I did say one thing,
Well,
and
you
I think
gotta
this
stick with
was
the show. You can't bail
no,
out
you can't.
now.
You
It's
know,
the
I'm not
final
gonna. No, you're not
episode
gonna
next
bail out. But your interest in it, the excitability, the curiosity can kind of wane, can kind of falter off. But I did say, and I will say that I was wrong in a sense that because I did say that the director Mohamed Diab, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, who directed
Probably not.
episodes one, probably not, who directed episodes 1 and 3. I said that those were the two episodes that I was kind of like, all right, these weren't too great. But episodes 2 and 4 were a little bit better for me. And I was saying that I didn't know, I was a little wary because Mohamed Diab was going to be also directing episodes 5 and 6. And so I was like, all right, going into them, I don't know how I'm going to feel about it. I will eat my words on that. This episode 5, was leagues better than episodes 1 and 3. And it might have just been because, like we mentioned before, it's just introducing us into the character, giving us the backstory, learning more about who Mark is, who Steven is, and who Layla is, who Khonshu is. All of these characters are still being introduced. But this episode, it didn't have action. It didn't have fighting. It didn't have, the whole Indiana Jones Tomb Raider like suspense going into the tomb, don't know what happened. This episode was literally just all heart. And no pun intended, because the whole thing was having the hearts, balanced on the scales, weighed against, the feather. And it it was a great episode. It was a really great episode. It was touching. It was very
Gut wrenching.
moving. It was very gut
Very moving.
wrenching. And it's like, for anyone who's had to deal with, not only because we've seen Mark and Steven dealing with DID and dealing with the internal struggle between them two, especially in the first couple episodes, them fighting over the body, who's going to have control. And now we get to see why that's been such a thing. We get to see how it just, like you said, for a young boy of that age to have to, not to have to, but who ends up resorting to having an alternate identity because that's the only way that he can escape the trauma that he's experiencing. And for anyone who has any type of traumatic experience growing up or any type of traumatic experience in their lives to where they had to disassociate from who they were in order to maintain some type of, you know, just safe space within their own mind to not have to deal with the horrors that they have to deal with in their real life. It's just, it's like, it's a punch in the gut. And I feel like all of these different MCU shows, and we were talking about this, how WandaVision was showing you how to deal with grief, and how, you know, Loki had the scene where he was like stuck in his, I don't know what kind of prison you would call it, but he had to like relive all the times that, you know, Sif came in and he played a trick on her because he cut her hair or something. It's like he has to relive that guilt and like come to terms with who he is and how people perceive him. Falcon and the Winter Soldier dealt with the racism and the inequality, and, you know, the whole thing with, I can't remember his name for the life of me, Isaiah Bradley, and the things that he had to go through. This man was essentially the same as Captain America. The only difference was that he was black, and how he got so mistreated.
Better than Captain America.
Right.
He beat the snot out of Bucky. And Bucky even admitted. Bucky, he know.
Yeah. But it's like, it's just these serious real world issues that show up in these MCU shows. And up until this point, Moon Knight is kind of like barely touched on. Like they've done a great job of showing Mark's DID. But for us to be able to see where it all started, I don't think that, like you said, I don't think they could have done that any better than what they did.
Beautiful job.
Yeah.
Across the board. This episode was my favorite episode for the whole season.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, we did the reveal, we did the name drop, we did the infamous name drop. We got Moon Knight in the name of the show, in the show. It's a big thing for movies if you don't pay attention. Like if you're in a movie and they say the name of the movie in the movie,
right?
That's a thing. I don't know why y'all looking at me strange. I don't like it. Never mind. Great job for the whole thing. My favorite episode.
Yeah.
I think the last episode is the icing that's on top of the Moon Knight cake. Moon Knight. I'm thinking of Final Space. If you guys haven't watched Final Space, you need to watch Final Space. That is an awesome show. Yes, I know. We're talking about MCU right now, but I'm talking about Final Space. That is super. And you won't regret it. If you do, come back and let me know. I doubt it. I very doubt it. Moon Knight, icing on the cake. Next episode, what are we going to see? Oh, this is the other thing that's going to be gut-wrenching. The man finally comes to terms with himself.
Right.
Gives himself permission to forgive himself about his brother's death. It's not your fault. You were a kid. And Mark accepts that reality. Gets balanced. Go to the field of reeds. Guess what? As we just said, you got a whole MCU to get to. You can't even stay there. He's going to have to come back.
Right.
Layla's going to attack by herself. It's a suicide mission. She's not capable. She's going to die. So he's not after just saving the world. He's actually going to save the woman that he loves, that he knows that he can't even be with.
Mm-hmm.
The woman that the guy that he made up loves, which we can talk about that in a second if we're going to see Steven again, because, yes, spoiler, go watch the episode. Spider told you already. He's in the sand, and he turns to sand, and are we going to see Steven again? Will there be a version of Steven? But you got to come out of the field of reeds. Right. You got a universe to save. That's fucked up. Like, dude, your life is horrible. I don't know. You was betrayed by your friends. You were shot, left to die. Your mom hates you. Your brother died. I mean, you got your dad and the Crawley.
Yeah. Crawley out there calling out bingo numbers.
I don't think anyone can. I think Moon Knight goes down as one of the most heartfelt origin stories in the MCU. I will give him that. This is probably worse than Batman. The reason why I say this is because even though the loss of any parents is horrible, right?
Right.
The rejection of one could be even more detrimental on a continuous basis.
Right.
So you're left with the image of your parents being amazing, right? They died, they were amazing, they were taken from you, but your image of what you have of them remains. For someone to read every day, you were jealous of him.
Right.
And all the stuff that was not true, he loved his brother.
Right.
They played all the time. They had favorite movies, and he loved his brother. But someone every day telling you that they're just taking their frustrations out on you because they can't process their own grief in a way that's healthy. Again, instead of re-encouraging Mark and showering him with love and appreciating that he's there, and it's tragic that you lost a baby and you lost a son, but you have a son and he's hurting too. He lost his brother.
Right.
But now you're every day drinking, you're every day just killing him with hurtful words and beating him. Man, I don't think anybody in the MCU has such a dramatic backstory.
No.
So in that instance, how could you not care for Mark? Because he's not only dealt with torment from a god from youth till death, and when he finally gets peace away from it all, he is now choosing to go back to save the world. Damn it, man. I want to love this guy. I want to be like, Moon Knight, this is my guy. I want to love this guy. So what am I missing? If you know what I'm missing, you can hit me up in the comments and let me know, because I read comments. I want to know, what is it about? Maybe it's me. I don't know.
No, and it's just everything that you said is spot on. Everything is spot on. And it had to be years, right? Because they don't give exact timelines. They don't give exact ages, but...
They did. He 2 months ago.
Well, yeah, two months ago was when the mom died 2 months before all of this stuff in the show started taking place.
Happening, right.
What I mean is that when when Mark and what was the younger brother name? I know they call him Roro.
It's not coming to me right now.
It might have been Roland or something like that.
You know what helped me remember?
That is not going to help you remember. But no, so what I'm saying is that I don't know exactly how old Mark was when his brother passed. But I want to say he was like maybe around 10 or 11. Definitely, at least from the way that he looked, he didn't look like he had reached teenager status. So I would say somewhere between 9 and 11 is when his brother died. And it showed you Mark leaving as a teenager, probably 17 or 18, which is probably when he joined the military. And so you're looking at 7-8 years, probably, of daily abuse. Not only are you getting abused, like you said, physically, emotionally, mentally, you're getting that abuse from your mom, from what it looks like the dad wasn't stepping up. to try to make it any better for him. He told us that he's like, you're supposed to help. You're supposed to stop this. And it's like you like how do you not fall into some type of like how are we supposed to like just how does that not break
why?
a person?
You know why? Because the dad was Mephisto. I did it! I did it! The dad was Mephisto. You can't run Disney. You're gonna have to deal with Mephisto.
I don't even. I can't.
Mephisto. We don't talk about Mephisto.
Oh my god! But no, it's just you. There's no way that you can come out of that situation and not be broken, right?
Right.
And like you said, with the just all of this happening like just 2 months ago. So 2 months ago,
it was the debt that broke him.
Right. So 2 months
Which is
prior,
crazy because you would think that he would want to distance himself from his mom, but he still wanted that embrace from his mom. And when she died, it broke him.
Right.
Wow. I need to be a therapist.
Do you?
Not unless you want bad results.
But so 2 months before the events of the show took place, his mom passed away. He couldn't even bring himself to be with the family because, of course, it's your mother. You love your mother no matter what. You hate her for what she did, but you still love her because it's still your mother. So you still even show up. But like you said, was it him that showed up? Was it Mark that showed up? Was it Jake that showed up? Because obviously we saw he kind of broke down in the street and then Steven took over because he can't deal with that emotion. He can't deal with that pain. So Steven comes out to protect him from it, which is even more mind-blowing because it begs the question, then how is it that Mark was still able to go about his mercenary life? Because obviously this had to take place. His mom had to pass after he became Moon Knight, or at least gotten the powers, right? Because you would think that Layla's dad has already been killed. He's already gotten married to Layla. Like, because
I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
you're saying they didn't clear the timeline exactly
right.
when did these events take place.
Right.
Because it's all happening in the mind, man. It's just a memory. That's all. Stop looking for that, how you say, that lateral timeline to go, linear. It's not going to go linear.
Yeah.
It's this way. You're in his mind and he's having episodes. You got to remember that you're in a DID situation. All right, you got to ride this wave. Baby.
The question is, what's real? What's not real? Because we've seen
shit. All of it could be a lie. Feeling sympathy for this guy is all just in his mind.
He's just
mom might be alive.
He's just a drunk in an alleyway and he's just imagining all of this. But no, because we've seen
you, Marvel.
We've seen, even given that the title of the episode is Asylum, we've seen Mark talking to Harrow and him getting sedated, right? We've seen Steven talking to Harrow and had to come to terms. Oh, another beautiful scene when he was like,
"Oh yeah,
don't say that about my mom. My mom is alive. If you say that my mom is dead, I will flip out. He's like, I will freak out on you." And just
he had
Harrow giving him the phone
twice.
Right,
the reality.
Harrow giving him the phone and like, I'll call your mom. You want to talk to her? And it's just like he knows. It's like all those times, and it like all the way back to episode 1. Who was he talking to on the phone? Was it just he was that disillusioned to he was holding the phone and he's just talking to nobody? And just the raw emotion from Steven just like realizing that his mom's dead. And like you also said, when we potentially had Jake talking to Harold. And so it's like, which part, like where the lines are so blurred? Where's the reality? Where's it's happening in his mind? It's That's what's fascinating me about the show, is because
Yes, it is
we
not a
don't know
traditional
what's real.
storyline. It is really good. Is it Super Spider? As he drinks, we'll wait. We'll wait.
To me, like I mentioned before, the show has steadily been giving me an uphill climb into super status. And I'm gonna say, and I know you disagree, I know your feelings on it, but I'm gonna say that Moon Knight is super. And when we say this, because I don't know if we've ever thoroughly explained to the audience when we say if something is super, what that actually means. If we're
Well,
saying
what you
that,
telling people, Spider? Listen, I know they like what are they basing super on? It's
right,
like what?
it's not saying that this is super. It's very superhero-y. It's very heroic. It's very like powerful. When we say is it super, that means that does this have substance? Does this make sense? Does this this story, one, can it fit into a larger storyline, which we can kind of sprinkle in? But when we say is it super, is does this move me? And I think that going into episode 5 now, it's like I said, Moon Knight has been climbing up that hill going into becoming super. And I think that it was rocky in the beginning, but I think that just it's all coming together. And I think that the show is getting better. And I I know that I said last week I was kind of wary about episode 5 based on the director, but going into episode 6 I'm a little wary because
What you got
the
against this man?
the Disney Plus shows have not always ended the best way.
Name a show that's from Disney Plus and did it in the best way. I'm coming for you.
It's not that the final episode wasn't great. There are parts of the final episode and just about all of the different shows. There are parts of the final episodes that just kind of didn't make a lot of sense.
You mean like Darcy hitting the director with a truck in WandaVision, and then her not really being there in the last episode
Yes,
at all?
that kind of didn't make sense. It just like where did Vision go? Where did White Vision go? White Vision kind of flew away, never to be heard of again. Kind
He's
of
pretty sure he's
didn't
going
make
to be in
sense.
Secret Wars.
Probably.
I mean, he's Vision now, so you know he's going to have a vision.
I
I
would
would
say
think
that
if he was Vision now, he would go to Wanda, but you know, hoes
yeah.
will be hoes. Apparently, he went out in the cosmos. Wouldn't that be interesting if we saw him in Guardians of the Galaxy, like out of space?
That would be interesting.
They don't know who Vision is. They never met Vision.
Thor would know who Vision is.
Thor would know, but
The Guardians wouldn't know.
the Guardians are there and Vision's there.
That would be strange.
Because Vision don't know them as well.
No, you've never met them.
So they can have an interaction and not know each other.
True.
I need just somebody need to just give me a check
But
from Marvel.
but no, I what's making me wary of the last episode is because I saw reports that this is going to be the shortest episode of the entire series. And
What?
yeah, episode 6 is going to be the shortest episode.
This just in. Spoiler alert.
And it said not only is this going to be the shortest episode of the series, it's the shortest episode, or one of the shortest episodes of all of the MCU Disney Plus shows. Well, the finales.
I'm standing by what I'm saying now. Not only is it not enough time to get the super ready for me, you've just cut that time.
Right. And so that's
Maybe
what
I'll say
makes
something
me
different after I watch it.
That's what makes me a little bit concerned because it's a lot of all right, so we got to figure out how Mark's going to get out of the field of reeds. We got to figure out how Mark is going to get his powers back. We got to figure out how Mark's going to save Layla. We got to figure out how Mark is going to save Steven. We got to figure out if Jake's going to come out or not. We got to figure out how Mark is going to stop Harrow. We got to figure out if Harrow, because they even said that there were multiple souls going into the afterlife prematurely. Howard Red already said that. So Arthur Harrow's probably already started. He's already resurrected Amit. So we don't know what's going on. So you
Can I
take
ask a question?
Go ahead.
Are we going to see Moon Knight lose in his origin story? In your coming out party, you're gonna take an L. We're building up to something. Maybe he needs some help from, some other Midnight Suns.
You know what?
That would be different.
It's definitely different. And to your point of what you were saying earlier about how, yeah, we're focusing on Moon Knight, but what is Captain America up to? What's going on with the Young Avengers? So we have all of these other people around us that we don't know what's happening with them. And to add on top of that a cliffhanger on a series where I don't even know if a season 2 has been announced.
Loki had ended on a cliffhanger.
Well, Loki has said season 2 of Loki is coming. So
thank God for that.
And then we already, I say we, the audience was already aware that once Kang was introduced, and for those who read the articles and all the backstories and the reviews and the interviews and stuff like that, they know that Kang is going to be coming back and is going to be the main villain of Ant-Man and the Wasp of Quantumania. For Moon Knight to end,
here's what I'm going to say. I think Ant-Man's going to lose.
Probably.
Sorry.
Probably.
No spoilers, but I think Ant-Man is going to lose. I think Kang is not playing with anybody in his way.
No, and I don't think Kang is not the type of villain that Ant-Man would be able to defeat on his own. Because you think about who Ant-Man went up against so far in these movies. He went up against the Wasp. I mean, not the Wasp. Yellow Jacket, and he went up against Ghost and Ant-Man and the Wasp. And
barely made it out of the Ghost situation. Right, we had to kind of talk her down.
Right. It wasn't even they defeated Ghost. Like they tried to cure Ghost, and the cure didn't take, and so Ghost kind of. So I don't think Ant-Man and the Wasp, they're not going to be able to take Kang on their own. So I 100% agree with you. I don't think they're going to come out of that one with a win. And so it might be the same way for Moon Knight. They might end Moon Knight saying that he wasn't able to, he might get his powers back, but he wasn't able to. He might stop the resurrection of Amit, but it might be just a small, like a win in the battle, but the war still rages on. So it may extend into another property. It may extend into another season of Moon Knight, but I don't know. It's a lot to get done in an episode, which is why I don't know why they limited it to 6 episodes. Make it 8. Make it 8 episodes. Make it 10. Make it a full season. make it a whole 21 episodes. Right.
Why are we doing this? Like, I watched Guardians of the Galaxy on Disney Plus. Now that show is super. Phenomenal show. It picks up
the animated one?
Yes. It picks up like after the Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Okay.
And kind of plays with the same characters in the sense they don't put it like this. They take the ending of Guardians of the Galaxy, but they sprinkle in not in game. It splinters off and goes into a different timeline. And it's still you get the Black Order. You get introduced to a lot of other characters. They introduce you to Adam Warlock, give you a good backstory on them. It's not the same from the comics. It's not the same from the MCU, but it's the character, and it's a good, pretty decent backstory. You get the Ravengers in there. You get Nowhere. You get Cosmo. You get Drax. You get more story on his family. You get Gamora and more story on hers. It's so well done.
I'm gonna have to
And
check
there's
that out.
like 3 seasons so far. I'm in the third season because I can't stop watching it. It's like all Guardian of the Galaxy. They understood the movie. They understand even more so the characters, and it's animated, so they can do more stuff. Right. Rocket's in that thing. He's blowing up everything. Groot's in there. There's a shout out to Baby Groot in there now because they're smart. It's worth watching. Is that super? Goddamn right. I'll say it's super all day. I love that show. So the point of what I'm saying is these things can transfer over. They can be done. It's like 23 episodes for a season.
Right.
I love all of it. I'm like, man, I'm surprised it has this many episodes, but you get such a flushed out story.
Yeah.
They talk about Peter Quill's dad, and Peter Quill's dad is not ego, and he's Spartakian. He's a Spartak or half Spartak. Anyway, watch that. Go watch that because in the middle after Moon Knight and before Ms. Marvel and Doctor Strange, look, somewhere along the line, we're about to hit a dead end on MCU content. It's gonna fizzle down because outside of Moon Knight, people don't take this the wrong way. We love Ms. Marvel. But we can see Disney is going for a younger demographic for that. Will I watch it? Yes, because I'm an MCU head. I'm going to watch it because I like MCU. But the point of what I'm saying, I'm watching it just because I'm an MCU head. I kind of want to see what goes on and who pops in. Not that I care much about Miss Marvel's story. Don't really care. I care about Moon Knight's story. I will say that because every time I think he's gone through enough, y'all tend to put him through more stuff. Story-wise, that makes your character compelling. I'm a fan of great storytelling. This is a great story. I'm just not, unless you make him lose at the end, it's horrible, man. It's a horrible thing to say. We want our heroes to become victorious and save the day.
Right.
But it just seems like, first, before we can save the day, we have to get ourselves centered. And that's what the balance of the scales are. So once you get yourself centered, he's rewarded with an afterlife that he can be. Because even, what's her name? The hippo lady?
Taweret.
She says that, I thought you want to be free of Khonshu's control. On the boat when she was saying, we got to go back. It's like, you're finally free.
Right.
Khonshu. Why would you want to go back? And he's going back because of love, because of Layla's love. And to stop her from, getting killed. Oh, and also to save the world and the universe. Yeah. That's a part of it too. This is a great story. Why is it not super for me, Spider?
I don't know. Only you can answer that question.
No, only they can answer this question. Because we're going to find out in this last episode of Moon Knight, is it going to come with the superness or not? Because put it like this. If you would have got Blade before Moon Knight, would you care about Moon Knight?
Yeah.
You would have?
Yeah. It's two different characters. It's two different storylines.
You wouldn't have gave a shit about Moon Knight.
Now, that might be you. It doesn't matter.
Moon Knight. Like,
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the order
that to kill.
Oh my God, it doesn't matter the order that the characters are introduced. They have their own unique stories.
And that's what the narrative is. That's what we want you to understand, that they all have their unique stories. Mephisto is coming. I'm just saying that when we get to Ghost Rider, because he's coming too, we're going to have somebody that he does a deal with to get the Soul of Vengeance. Is it the Soul of Vengeance? What is it?
I don't know.
If you remember what the title is, put it in the comments because I don't remember. That's Spirit.
Spirit of Vengeance.
Spirit of Vengeance. So we now have the Spirit of Vengeance.
And the Fist of Vengeance.
The Fist of Vengeance. Can we get vengeance? Is vengeance coming? Think about it. If you're using the spirit of him and the fist of him, he must be a bad someone. It's Mephisto. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Let me get off the Mephisto train. This is a dangerous train to be on.
Look, you could hop on that train and ride it till the brakes fall off. It's like
Pause.
no, you're absolutely right. Mephisto is going to show his face eventually.
He has to.
I don't know when, but you can
listen.
stay on that train.
They got what's that show, Lucifer? That song. What network is that?
Netflix.
On? Lucifer has been bought by Netflix.
Lucifer.
I mean, vice versa. Sorry. I mean, Netflix bought Lucifer.
Yeah, Netflix bought Lucifer from Fox, I want to say. But that was a long time ago.
There you go.
Lucifer is over.
That's what I'm saying. The point is, the general public knows who Lucifer is.
Right.
You can call him whoever you want to call him. He's important to the story. He's a key component to the story. You can't. Okay, even if you hint at it, let's say that I sold my magical spoons. This is how I know I'm going to start writing movies again. I sold my magical spoons to get the baking skills from the evil grandmother who lived in the house that was on the cliff. You're like, what are you talking about? The magic grandmother is Mephisto. Mephisto is everywhere is what I'm saying. So you can call her the grandmother or whoever else you want to call them. We know as fans of these characters that it has to be Mephisto. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, I'm off the train now.
100% lost me on that analogy. I don't know where you're going with that.
Off cliffs with baked goods, apparently.
We're gonna have to circle back to that one at a later date. But if you enjoyed episode 5 of Moon Knight, let us know in the comments. Let us know what you think. You've heard our responses, so we want to know from you. Episode 5 of Moon Knight, is it super for you? I think it is. Mr. VIP Frankie Washington doesn't think that it is, but we want to hear from you. So leave us a comment. If you like the video, go ahead and like it. Click on the like button. Click on the subscribe button. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell to get notifications as to when a new episode is posted. Follow us on your major podcast streaming services, or you can reach out to us on Twitter at ATSuperPod. Any one of those ways. Just let us know. Show us some love. We love hearing from you guys. We will be back next week for a two-parter. Not a two-parter, but a doubleheader. We got 2 episodes coming out next week. We're going to be talking about Moon Knight finale, of course, episode 6 of Moon Knight. But we're also going to be diving in to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. A full spoiler review. We're going to get into the thick of it. We're going to talk about everything as it pertains to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So you do not want to miss that. It's going to be an exciting time. I can already tell you it's going to be exciting.
Who knows what this idiot's going to say? this guy here, man. Come back. Come see.
Yeah, you don't want to miss it. You definitely don't want to miss it. But until then, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you in the next episode.